The goals of this whole workshop and this next moment in our progression forward together as partner is to use research to see what we have done so far, and also to use research to look forward, but also through this mechanism to build a sustainable research capacity within Guyana so that we will in due course take up our own research agenda and continue with our own research activities.
This workshop is built right around collaboration. The day of silos is over, and the more collaboration the better. Not only collaboration north-south, but collaboration horizontally in the north-north between, for example, the CNIS and other universities as well as McMaster's.
I'm Dr. Madan Rambaran, and I'm the Director of Medical and Professional Services at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. The impact and the outcomes have been very, very important in that we have built a capacity now that is nearly sustainable out of these partnerships for postgraduate medical education. Out of the engagements with education and its development and delivery of training programs, we naturally had research activity happening. And so we have had research activities for internship and our graduates and residents who have been involved with their training.
Okay, so I was involved in some research last year in November with Mr. Blair Cameron and Dr. Kallichstein involving the intraosseous needle insertion techniques. The project was run during the trauma team training, which is another Canadian-Guyana collaboration. And so far, we've gotten 2 presentations that have been accepted at the Bethune Roundtable. So we're pretty happy with that.
Very significantly and importantly, we have actually developed and introduced a Guyana annual scientific conference, the Guyana Medical Scientific Conference. And that by itself is all driving some sort of research activity.
The Canada-Guyana Research Partnership Workshop, sponsored by the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, was held May 30th to 31st, 2011 at McMaster University. It brought together surgeons from both countries, surgical education experts, and NGOs to establish an ongoing research agenda in Guyana.
Really, again, the drive for this is really coming from Guyana. Dr. Rambaran has spoken for a couple of years about his desire to develop a research institute in Guyana that could translate knowledge into practice and develop new knowledge based on Guyanese experience.
On one of our last visits, we really didn't want it to end, so we came back and we decided to write this grant to the Canadian Institutes of Health Research and get the grant to have people here and look at the future of the research partnership.
The workshop participants explored 2 areas for research collaboration. First, the use of high-fidelity, simulation-based learning to teach trauma skills. And second, the evaluation of trauma and surgical skills training programs in Guyana.
So simulation has emerged as a new educational modality, and we use it for a range of skills from basic procedural skills like intubation or tube insertion to more complex things like trauma resuscitation. And we brought one of the sim men down. We ran, I think, probably the first course down there involving high fidelity simulation, and hopefully it's the start of a much more interesting and long-term project.
Out of our initial experience, we were able to set the simulator up and find a dedicated space for it before we left, and were able to provide some basic training on how the simulator works, so that way faculty could start developing some expertise and local experience with it, but recognizing the need for ongoing training of the faculty and helping them with developing appropriate scenarios to actually make it meaningful and something that can be studied going forward.
So one of the things that I'm looking at is how we can use the simulation technology that we now have complements of the collaboration between Canada and Guyana to see how we can best utilize that to improve patient care.
We have researched some educational programs, especially the trauma team training program, which is a CNIS program, and we have researched its outcome and its impact. We have attempted to research those.
The CNIS has been running trauma team training in Guyana in partnership with the Georgetown Public Hospital since 2006, and that's been quite an exciting, powerful partnership. Now, in this workshop, we were looking at how do we evaluate the trauma team training course and more extensively. And I think we're in a good position to do that, first of all, because the baseline work has been done.
I think program evaluation is super critical to health systems research. And so one of the things that we're doing here, right, is we're talking about building capacity, and we're taking education as the core component to that capacity. And so one of the things that happens a lot internationally is people take programs and they come down and they teach them, and then they go and they think, you know, that's great. But without evaluation, without like a critical research agenda, looking at the methodological integrity of that evaluation, you can't really know, was your program successful? What were the milestones that it hit? You know, where do we need to tweak things?
I think essentially coming to some consensus on what needs to be done, what gives both sides of the partnership best value for their input is what is very important here.
Our Canadian partner has always been focused at the end of the day. We should become sustainable and self-sufficient in most of these things. It doesn't mean that at any stage we will not need partnerships. We will always need partnerships.
Being someone who has come out of that partnership, I have a sense of a responsibility of perpetuating and making these ties a bit stronger.